You up. You travel and got caught.
You're down
Says she doesn't want to bring him
right.
to soccer.
Whoa.
What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to Sports Are Fun. I'm your host, Kelley O'Hara.
I'm the personality hire, Paige Bueckers.
I'm Greydy Diaz, aka Midrange Mommy.
I'm Merritt Mathias, broadcast to podcast.
You're back.
I'm back,
Welcome
you guys.
back.
And so much has changed. We got coffee table.
We do have a coffee
yeah.
table.
BJ got a nameplate. I mean, he has
Wait,
to do work now.
You haven't been here since you got that?
No.
It's kind of
Wow.
new.
New.
It's only like 2 weeks, 3.
No, it's more than
No,
that.
I know.
You guys, I've not been here since the live show.
Wow.
I know.
So much has happened.
I know a lot has happened.
Wow. We got a lot to talk about this week, including some early favorites in the WNBA season, a massive week in soccer all over the world, and a PWHL champion, and maybe some Trinity Rodman content
back.
hosting. I know, loved it. But first, to get into the WNBA, we had a great game between the Fever and the Liberty. It came down to the wire. Tosh Cloud got the stop on Caitlin Clark. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul?
I think you
What do
just
guys
said
think?
it was a stop.
Yeah, right.
She stripped the ball
Right. She
and
got
Caitlin flopped. Like, be for real.
You
Caitlin-
think?
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, the camera angle doesn't show what it needs to show. So I'm like, you can't see shit. Thanks for like all the lack of broadcasting.
for nothing.
Yeah, I'm like, they're like, from that angle, you can't tell. I'm like, yeah, it's the back of the plate. But Natasha Cloud doing what she came to the Liberty to do, like her vibe and her defensive presence, like that's what she was brought to the Liberty to do. Massive, massive moment. But yeah, also, I can't even call out a foul. I would
No,
foul
that's
out.
what I was gonna say.
I don't even know at this point what a foul is and is not in basketball. I
That
stopped
is-
playing basketball because I fouled out every game.
Literally, that is what my notes is. I'm like, the discrepancy between like a foul that's called and not called in basketball is so confusing to me. I would
so
watch a
confusing.
game and I'm like, did that person touch that other person? And then
But
like,
also, wait.
and they called a foul. And
What would
then
the foul have been on her?
Somebody chopped somebody's arms off, and it's like, play on.
It's,
What would the foul have been on her, though? Just like hitting her hand?
Well, I
Well-
feel like when I watched it, and I did see actually multiple angles, there was like a little patty cake going on. Like there was like some like wrist hitting, hands going, but I'm like, that, to me, that seems like good defense, right? Like I don't know how it seems like basketball, it's like you can't touch the other person.
yeah,
But then,
what is the thing about it? What is a reach in foul? Because
Yeah.
I'm like, are you allowed to reach in at all or not? And if you do reach in, can you only touch the ball?
Usually, you should be only touching the ball. Yeah.
Okay, so if you get like a little bit of the knuckle,
I
it's a
mean,
foul.
you get a pinky grade.
Yeah.
I guess it really depends on the refs. And clearly,
Foul.
Stephanie,
I'm like, are you
Stephanie White has had some issues with the refs. I
Right.
mean, and I think in general, refs are not perfect, and we know this. And there's always going to be complaints. I don't know.
For
But
sure.
as a coach, when you lose, like, why wouldn't you complain? Like, what is she going to say? Like, the refs got it
Yeah.
right.
You're just like, she was doing the right thing.
Like,
in that
what-
press
I'm
conference.
like, what's she gonna do?
It's coaching 101. They're like, we lost, ref's fault.
But also, even if it was a foul, it wasn't going to be a shooting foul. So it wasn't like she was going up with the game-winning shot.
Great point.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, BJ.
And that's what they wanted. But again,
But it wasn't
Natasha
that type
Cloud
of
with
foul.
that defensive presence.
She played like the way she played that. I thought,
you played it to perfection.
but same. Obviously, she
Obviously.
did because they got
Because
the
it was
win.
a foul.
And I actually looked into the Indiana Fever's fouls drawn and fouls called, and they were ranked 11 out of 13 on personal fouls with 21 per game, and they were tied at number 5 with personal fouls drawn at 20, and they found themselves with 20.3 free throw attempts per game.
This is last year or this year already?
This year
Oh,
in the
okay.
first 4 games. And if you look at the games, the first 4 games, they had 7 more fouls called on them against New York, 4 more against ATL, 3 less versus ATL, and 7 less versus Chicago. So it kind of evens out.
Right.
And at the
So
end
what was Stephanie White referring to when
she was just
like,
saying she just feels like her team is under a microscope and is getting more foul calls than her opponents. And at the same time, if you look at the Indiana Fever's free throw shooting, it's pretty bad. They're shooting about 60%, and which is the second worst in the WNBA right now. So I'm thinking, Stephanie White, your team needs to focus on making shots.
Well, I don't think it was a foul, but again,
I don't think it was a foul either.
great D by Tosh.
I thought, yeah.
I
Go
saw some
Liberty.
comments that were really funny where they were like, "It's cloudy in Indiana," and I thought that was fun.
That is good. That is good.
I love when the internet just continues to deliver.
The internet does not disappoint.
It really doesn't.
It really doesn't. Another thing for the Fever, obviously, Caitlin Clark out minimum of 2 weeks with a quad strain. To me, when somebody says or it gets announced that it's minimum, I'm like, ooh, that's probably 2 to 4 week situation. So I think this is a moment that we're gonna find out, like, what is the Fever really made of?
Yeah. Also, a quad strain is one of those things. I feel like they're tricky. And
Oh,
even
yeah.
when it comes to a strain, you are minimum 2 weeks at max 6.
Yeah.
And that in between is really, I mean, it can be tough because the expectation is you can get faster, and muscle strains are just tough. They are often not in favor of the player. It takes much longer than you want them to.
100%. But she's got youth on her side.
But do you
is true.
think with her out, how like will the performances of the Fever dip
I
drastically?
mean, right now, Caitlin is averaging about 19 points, which is the most on her team.
Yeah.
And she's also averaging the most assists with about 9. So I do think that they do have great players. You have Kelsey Mitchell, who can get a bucket whenever she wants. But I do think players are going to have to step up. I want to see more from DeWanna Bonner, who's only averaging 2 points a game. And last year she was averaging about 14, 15.
Oh,
so
wow.
there's been a huge decline. And she is playing 10 minutes less
I was about to ask
per
the
game.
minutes.
However, she's an incredible player, and we haven't been able to see that.
Do you think that's because it's her getting used to being on a new team? Are they playing a different style? What do you think is lending towards her not being so proficient in her scoring?
I think she has a different role. I think she's on a different team. I think there is an adjustment, and she's not super young either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the role?
I don't know
that's
if her
different?
body is breaking down a little bit. Not really sure. on
Yeah.
that.
What role? And when you say a difference in roles, what was she doing on her previous team that
I
you don't see
mean-
her doing here?
She wasn't on the court as much. And I think, she's an incredible leader, and I just feel like maybe she's doing a lot more of that from the bench now. But she can score, and she can score at every level. So
I mean,
I
she's
would
the
love,
third most leading points in the league.
I would love to see her, kind of be more aggressive on the offensive end. And she hasn't been taking as many shots as she usually does. So I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't you taking shots? And I get it. You have Caitlin Clark, who's taking many
Right.
shots, and other players, but for you to have such a decline worries me.
Well, people or teams that are not having declines are the Lynx and the Liberty, both
Yes.
undefeated. Fee off to an incredible start, continuing her monster year from unrivaled into the league. She's leading in points. Do y'all think that we're going to see Lynx Liberty again in the finals this year? Like, do you think it's too early to make that assumption, or are we like, no, this
I
is
think
what we're
it's
going to
too
see?
early, but I
do
am
too.
hopeful that it happens again.
Really? You want to see it again?
You want it?
Kind of.
Okay.
I thought it was an incredible matchup. I thought both of those teams, when you watched in person, was incredibly intense. Great basketball.
Yeah.
There was competition to the very end of games. It was like what you want from a championship.
For sure. No, that's a good
series.
point.
It was like really, really good. And I think Fee deserves all the time in those moments as much as possible. So does Brianna Starr. Like, the players that are on those teams are just really fun to watch.
They are, for sure. On the other side, we have some teams that aren't doing as well.
Ooh.
Dallas hasn't won a game. Chicago hasn't won a game.
Connecticut hasn't won a game.
Connecticut.
They're 0-4.
Yeah, not good.
0-4 is tough, yo. At the
It
beginning of the year
is.
is
But the thing is,
tough.
they play 44 games. So in my opinion, I'm like, it's just the beginning.
40 more games to go.
40 more games.
so many games.
You got time to turn it around. But any thoughts on why these teams are having a slow or terrible start? Well, not just slow.
Chicago has changed a lot, and they lost Kennedy Carter, who was their leading scorer last year. And
That'll do it.
Right now, Chicago has no one
That can make a layup.
shooting. Listen, nobody's shooting or scoring in double figures right now, which is really tough. So that means you're probably going to get outscored if you have no player averaging 10.
Yeah, you're not.
You have 3 players on the cusp, but you're not there yet.
Right.
And I just think that they lost an incredible offensive punch or power with Kennedy Carter. And right now you're having other folks try to step up, and it's obviously you have new leadership in Chicago. You have a little bit of a different team. So I don't think it's going to be an easy season for Chicago.
I feel like of those teams that aren't starting strong, the one that I am hopeful for is Dallas to be able to get it together, turn it around, figure each other out and have a much better season than they did last year. Another team that has won but is still having a rocky start, Aces.
I think they're going to make a turnaround.
Okay.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
Because Becky, I feel like I think I saw this quote. Becky Hammon was like, I don't want dogs anymore. I want like hungry wolves or like wolves or something. And so I feel like last year they were trying for the three-peat. And they seemed super confident throughout the year, but they also, Becky kind of touched on this as well. She was like, my players are superstars. They're playing games and they're going and doing appearances and they're going and like being the celebrities and the personalities and athletes that they are outside of the court. And I'm curious if she's like, all right, girls, ladies, time to lock in this year.
Becky
we're not messing around.
Becky gives, she is that.
Yeah, right?
Like she is
But
like,
also,
all right,
it's like-
enough with the appearances. Get your shit together.
right. Like,
Are
I've
you really
never
going
seen-
to tell like Asia Wilson she's not going to go do an appearance? She's the face of the
No,
league.
but also Asia
And
Wilson right now is averaging the most in every single category
for her team.
For her team.
I'm not saying Asia specifically.
That's a
No,
lot
I'm
to
just saying
carry.
saying, like, are you
So
gonna
we
stop these
need to
people?
see more from people like Jewel,
across the board.
people like Chelsea. We need to see
Right.
more from her teammates.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in the last game that experience showed because they were down against the Mystics and then obviously came back and won very late in the game.
Right.
But I think they won because they are veterans. They do have that championship experience
For sure.
across the board.
They are going through these growing pains. You've lost Kelsey Plum, even like a player like Sydney Colson, what she brings to bringing a team together, being that personality. Like, I think that there is just the Aces are going through what it means to, evolve and continue to be great. I think the loss that they had against the Liberty, you're like, listen, it's like basically your top teams in the W going against each other. It could go either way. Their loss against Seattle, though, I'm like, ooh,
They got smacked.
They got smacked. And what everyone from the outside perceives Seattle to be in is basically like a rebuild, of like they've lost players, they lost Jewel, all these things. And I'm like, if I'm Jewel too, I'm like, I have left a team, played them, and lost, and it's there is nothing worse than that. That hurts so much to go against your former team and get smacked.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that is not the impression I wanted.
No,
to
definitely not.
You can't sleep on Seattle. They have some really great players, and the way NECA was playing, the way Erica Wheeler stepped up. I mean, they have. I think they might be one of the sleeper teams this year. But I do want to call out one thing, and I know that we talked about Connecticut Sun having 0 wins, but low key, I think Bria Hartley, this is a win for her personally because she hasn't been in the league for 3 seasons. So she came back to a WNBA that has chartered flights, and she was like, oh, this is sweet. But also in her first week of playing, she got a black eye. So I think her it's still physical here. So I think to see her back, and yes, she's playing on Connecticut. They haven't won, but I just think for her, this is a personal win to be back in the league. And I think that should be celebrated.
I don't doubt that the Aces will get it together.
Totally.
And be coming back or like.
And also, you want them to. I mean,
for sure. They're such a fun team.
They're such a fun team.
They make them being great makes the WNBA great.
1000%.
Yeah, for sure. All right. A team performing better than we kind of assumed they would, or I don't know what other people in the room thought, but the Washington Mystics. And I think that's a lot to do with their rookies. Yeah. Rookies have had a great start to the year, specifically Kiki.
And Sonia.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on her.
No, I both are, but like, I don't know. She's like,
Last week you're talking about my front runners for MVP. This week she's not even there.
No, I said front runner for Rookie of the Year.
Oh, my bad.
Get it straight.
My bad.
BJ, you have a nameplate now. Get it
And
right.
this week she's gone.
Yeah. I'm not even talking about her. No, but Kiki is continuing her streak of double-doubles, and I mean, I feel like the Mystics needed this infusion of rookie talent to be what they're doing, to be doing what they're doing right now.
I think they're surprising everyone with their standings and everything. I mean, I'm going to look to Greydy for this. But.
Yeah. No, I mean, they are, again, as you said, they're utilizing their young players and they're young, like having that opportunity to be able to go out and just play your game as a rookie doesn't happen that often. You know, some rookies don't see the court for more than 2 minutes, you know, but they're really having that opportunity and they're making the most of it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Sonia and Kiki just keep going and seeing, you know, where they can take that team.
For sure.
I think when you see a team with such young talent succeeding in the way that the Mystics are, it speaks a lot. It speaks volumes to their coaching staff, right? Because you have to give such detail and a vision and form identity, one, quickly, two, to a depth that you kind of have the luxury of not doing when you have like veteran leadership on the team. When you know what you're doing in the league, you can kind of skip over the hurdles. Sometimes you have to go back to the fundamentals because you're not getting it right. But I think to see these players step onto the court and feel like they are playing with a form of confidence and identity and they understand their game plan, that's massive. And that is how you know, are successful with young talent. You have to give them identity and direction and also have them buy into that. And I don't know, they seem to be doing everything just right, which is awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, shout out to Sydney Johnson, head coach.
Let's go.
Their whole front office staff, which is everyone's new.
Yeah.
So to have this, you know, start on this great note, I think
that's
it's
a
about,
testament to
let's
them.
see how you can continue this and can you, you know, keep that consistency right now.
For sure. We can't talk about rookies and not talk about Paige, obviously, getting into her rhythm in the W, but in our call, Mary, you brought up something that you think has been more interesting than her play.
Way more interesting. I'm like, yeah, Paige. We all know what Paige can do on the court. I'm like, what is she doing off the court, yo? What is she doing?
Well, I mean,
and when we first had this chat, we knew that AZ was courtside, did her little interview, super cute, and then they hit us with this TikTok. And I'm like, is that what this BJ, you can speak to this. I'm like, is this generation's way of a hard launch? Like the millennials, you got like the picture on Instagram. Right. Now I'm like, is the TikTok and being like,
the TikTok's a soft launch. Once you go onto Instagram, it's
Instagram's like, whoa, that's really official.
Yeah. But I'm like, yo, y'all talking about Paige paying for a date now.
Right.
Like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. I'm like, let's go.
But during that interview, I love that AZ did say that in the WNBA, folks will have a chance to see other parts of her game because obviously we know Paige is a scorer, but she's like, I'm glad that people are going to now be able to see how great of a passer she is.
Yeah,
so
which we've seen,
but she's probably going to have a lot more opportunities to do it now, which is great.
All right, well, moving from the court to the pitch.
Let's go.
This past week, the U.S. Women's National Team announced their next camp's roster, their roster for next camp.
Camp call-ups.
Camp call-ups. USWNT camp call-ups. There was some people left off. There were some people added in. I want to shout out Lo. Yeah. I'm super stoked about her call-up. I think this is just awesome to see from a perspective of like how your play in the NWSL matters. And I think she's maybe the oldest player to ever get called in to a camp for the first time.
She's 32.
Oh, I don't know how old McCall was. When she
I definitely did see social media.
I did see that too.
The oldest,
which is to me, like again, I think Lo should have been called in a while ago, based on her league play. But I really like that it's happening now, and that she's not getting looked over because she is 32, because she's never been called in before, and the fact that to me this shows Emma is watching the NWSL, cares about how you're playing in the NWSL, and you can see it from who she didn't call in. Yeah. Based on that.
Emma came out with a quote saying that they were agonizing over trying to decide if she should be called in low for the Olympics last summer, but they ended up ultimately not going with it because they wanted more experience.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't see that.
She could not, her talent could not be ignored any longer. Is
right.
What the quote said.
For sure. I really think that she is a special player in what she brings, and you can see it in how she's led Kansas City. And I'm really excited to see her take that to the national team.
Yeah, I think to your point, to kind of double down on that to have Emma recognize that your play in the league matters and consistent play in the league matters.
Right.
Like you can have, a couple game win streak, you might get called in, but to stay and remain at the top takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication. It's hard to do. It's a demanding league. And I think the narrative around, the NWSL and the US women's national team was like, people would get called in. It's like, doesn't matter. It like does not matter what I consistently do in the league. I'm never going to be able to penetrate that barrier.
Right.
And I think, again, it's so profound of Emma to do this because it continues to bring like inspiration.
Right.
Like anyone who's playing in the league in this country and you are from the United States, that is ultimately your goal. And so if you are giving all your time, energy, effort, and you're still not getting paid the amount that you're worth, all these things can be true. But ultimately, your goal is to get an opportunity. What you do with it after that, you don't know. That's up to you. But I think that there's been a long time where players like Lowe could consistently show up in the league and it didn't matter.
Right.
And I think you're now seeing that you need players of all ages to be inspired to continue to play in this league and continue to put in that effort because like there should be hope no matter your age, no matter how long you haven't been called in, that you can, if you consistently perform and you catch the eye of Emma, you have a chance.
Yeah, I think that has been the case throughout. Like I think back to Shannon Box. I think this was WPS days. Like she got called in right before either a World Cup or an Olympics because of her league play. So I do think that this is something that has happened throughout the years, right? Like you play well enough in the league, you will get called in regardless of if you're 32 or if you're like a 18-year-old superstar, or like, you're a rookie or your second year or something like that. So but again, I like what you're saying in that this call up, I think should be an inspiration for every single player that's in the league. Like you said, everyone who plays in this league and has the opportunity or ability to play for the US Women's National Team, this is huge for them. To be like, if I work hard enough, like there is a chance.
Yeah.
But while we are speaking on age, and this is one thing I do want to bring up, I did think it was interesting because Casey Kruger came out earlier this year and said that her and Emma discussed and her age was a factor in not being called up to national team anymore. So Casey Kruger is around the same age. She's 2 years older.
My thought there, she's 2 years older than Lowe?
Lowe, yeah. I think she's 34, Lowe is 32.
Right. So like you think about it, Lowe would be 34 at 2027 World Cup, whereas Casey would be 36. And in my opinion, at some point, like Casey never became a starter for the national team. And at some point, if that's not gonna, like if you get called, she was called into the environment enough to be seen. And I think Emma probably like 2 years older does contribute a lot to, like 34 and 36 is very different at a World Cup, in my opinion. But then on the flip side, it's like Casey has had her chance. She won a gold medal with the national team and she did get to play, but she never like cracked into a consistent starting spot.
Are you saying so? And I think what you are touching on is Casey maybe buys herself the less of an argument on age if she's continued to be a consistent starter. If you don't have that, then you're starting to mix into the group of being like, okay, well, we're going to try people out.
Right.
That might be younger, that can step into this, that we can build in 2 years in order to potentially take that role and go with it. Or they also are recycled out and someone else takes
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like we would rather try a Giselle Thompson than continue to bring in Casey Kruger.
She was a stable choice if, Emily Fox or Crystal Dunn was out.
For sure.
But
now Emma's like, I'm looking not just to 2027, but to 2031. Like this is for the future. And again, I think that Casey, like, she had a great national team career, but the reality is 2 years does make a big difference. And she doesn't have the foundation of like being like, I can stay on this and continue to be a starter because she
Very good point.
Really was. But some notables left off: Jasmine Ryan, Jaden Shaw, Corbin Albert.
War is over. We've won.
Do you want to say anything else?
Well, I do want to say Corbin, which I don't care, and Jaden, who were left off, and also Mia Fischel will be representing the U23 teams and playing in Germany. And I think I saw some discourse on social media being like, is this a punishment for someone like Jaden and Corbin? Or is this like something to build on? And Emma's argument or statement was that this is the U23 will provide them something they're missing from their game. And Jaden, I do think this is a chance for her to actually come up and step out and show out and kind of be that star player that she kind of hasn't been when club level or national level as of this year. Mia Fischel, I don't think this is a punishment. I think this is just coming back from injury.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care about Corbin.
Okay.
But the Orlando Pride have 2 players that got called up.
Yeah.
You have Carrie and Emily, and it's Carrie's first time being called up.
And
so,
she has done extremely well, especially in my opinion this season. And Emma has spoken about how the goalkeeper position with Alyssa Nair retiring at the beginning of this. Was it the beginning of this year? Last year.
Oh, last year she retired from international
play. And the outside back position are 2 positions that she's like, we gotta do some digging on, you know, and figure out who those are going to be for us and who are going to be number 2, number 3, number 4. So,
But you still have Crystal and Emily both called in.
oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Which
for
they're for sure, like, you know, straightening away the starters. But
you have to have depth.
Yeah.
For
Especially
sure, when
you
it
start
comes to the-
come into a World Cup, it's such a long tournament.
Yeah.
And it's a demanding position. But I think Carrie Bello is one of, like, when she has all the characteristics of being an outside back that can, like, hold her own.
for sure.
She's shown it at
On
the
both
club
sides of the
level,
ball.
but like in the international level, on both sides of the ball, she's incredible at like driving in line, creating in the attacking third, you know, providing width when she needs to. And yeah, I think she's a player that after watching her play and playing against her, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you
Great
deserve
call
an
for sure.
opportunity.
Yeah.
opportunity.
I like this roster. I'm really excited to see what they can do because they play 2 very different teams, China and then Jamaica. So it'll be interesting to see, again, like who she puts out on the field, who she chooses to sub, how they choose to play against these teams.
And Naomi Girma's back.
Oh, yes. Bless up. Thank the Lord. Yeah, no, it'll be good to have her back in the U.S. jersey for sure.
And one thing I did want to talk about, Giselle Thompson listed as a forward.
I know. I find that interesting because I want her to be an outside back, and I think that she could be extremely, extremely good as an outside back.
I think
the US
though,
team.
I think this I fully back you in that. I think cheers. I think though, when you're looking at rosters for tournaments, that you often need players that you can rely on to bring you different looks depending on like what you're capable of doing. I don't know if that's a part of like every player's profile. I think it is a part of Giselle's.
Right.
I think to be able to
Crystal
bring
Dunn
her in,
situation.
Yeah.
She got listed as a forward and then she played outside back all
Exactly.
Olympics. And I'm like, is she doing this again with
Yeah.
Giselle? You know,
Potentially. What I was
was it
thinking
like truly like sometimes it's like, this looks a little like heavy on the defenders. We'll just throw her into the forward category. I'm not kidding.
True, but I also think if you want to develop G and give her an opportunity at a World Cup roster, and she can come in and perform in a balanced way in both sides, that you're like, all right, well, I will take Giselle over this player because I can plug her in as a forward, or I can plug her in as an outside back, and I will be totally fine. Or she can come in at the end of the game and wreak havoc on the front end.
I just find it so curious. It's like you could still list her as a defender, but then play her as a forward. But maybe it was a conversation from Emma being like, we're calling you in as a forward this camp. Get your mind right. This is where you're going to be playing. Like,
I think
these are the expectations.
There was an
into this
interview
one.
with Emma. I believe she was like sidelined at a game. I believe it was Kansas City, maybe versus Chicago. She was in Chicago, came to a game, and she was specifically asked about, bringing Giselle in as a forward. And she's like, yeah, I want to see
her as a forward.
Forward.
We'll get to see it.
Cool.
All right.
She
Well,
said,
love it.
10 toes down. She goes, yep.
okay. The fingies too.
The fingies too.
And playing
20
with your
toes.
playing with your sister's really cool.
Oh my god,
Like,
it'd be so sick.
can you imagine being their parents?
Yeah. Like what?
So cool.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a Thompson to Thompson assist goal.
Ooh.
On the international
US
level.
national
Yeah,
team goal.
exactly.
That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
they
Be
are
sweet.
like their dynamic as sisters is like really fun and like cute.
Yeah, they're
to
cute.
like see, and the way in which they operate with one another. But I'm excited for them.
For sure. It'll be great. A lot to look forward to there
Yeah.
on the US and international stage. Every business or show, like sports or fun, starts with an idea. How can you go from daydreamer to industry leader? Amazon Business accelerates your journey. With smart business buying, get everything you need to grow in one familiar place, from office supplies to IT essentials and maintenance tools. Amazon Business takes the buying experience you know and love from Amazon, plus tools that help you save costs and make insights-based decisions. Ready to bring your vision to life? Learn how at amazonbusiness.com. NWSL had games this past weekend. A lot of the same, I would say. Orlando got back into their winning ways.
A lot of the same. It's like, don't ever try to play my team like that. A whole hat trick.
I was just about to say, but Orlando got back into their ways.
Everything's the same.
Yeah, no, your pride.
I'm proud of.
Yeah,
I'm proud of
Banda
us.
with a hat trick.
Yes,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, just to watch Banda. I mean, her positioning, her power, her speed. I mean, 1v1 or 1v4. I'm putting my money on Banda
No, I
every
know.
single time.
I would for sure.
First hat trick in Pride history.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you say?
That's
First
a
hat trick in
crazy
Pride
stat
history.
considering the players who have played for Orlando Pride.
Yeah, Alex
Orlando was
Morgan.
so tragic for so long, even with like such an insanely stacked roster.
Yeah.
And it was the first or the fastest hat trick in NWSL history.
Wow.
38
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
38 minutes.
No way.
She did that.
Wow, she
38
did that.
minutes.
She was like, okay, I'll go sit on the bench now. You're welcome.
Well, it's like I'm
tough.
also just like Utah
something
got
to
their
get to.
first like big win the weekend before. They're like riding high.
LOL.
And I was like, oh, like they were out of their minds, as they should. It's like the first 3 goals they've ever scored in club. Speaking of first hat trick, I'm like, I think that's the first 3 goals Utah
Like a
scored in
3-goal
one
game?
game
Yeah.
ever.
Dang.
But they were so excited, and then I like looked at who they had next, and I was like, oh yeah. Well, go
they
back
had
to your go to
it was a
Utah
whole
ways
second.
there.
They had a
because
goal. It was 1-1 for a second there.
Okay.
So
Well, they were in it
They were in it.
until
Yeah.
38
Until they
minutes.
weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, to go from being like, hell yeah, to, oh no.
Well, if you're going to lose anyone.
True.
Yeah, I think that's the other point where you, in the NWSL, you're basically betting the odds that you have to pick up points against everyone who sits around you. You are going to lose. You're basically anticipating dropping points against an Orlando, a Kansas City. So then your battles start to become like, okay, if these teams are sitting around me, these are the wins that are necessary to put ourselves in the best playoff picture possible, which
sure.
you see a lot.
Because you're not even competing with the top of the table at that point. You're just
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm just trying to get into playoffs.
Which we've seen from like a San Diego, right? Like San Diego, you look at their games, the games that they've dropped have been against the top 2 teams. It's been against Orlando.
And they're top 2 now.
They
They're
are
number
top
2.
2, but they're sitting top 2.
Well, no, I know, but that's the way you,
Right.
they are a perfect example
Right.
of we've lost to the top 2 teams in the league, and yet we're sitting number 2 because we have consistently picked up points against everyone we should be competitive with.
Well, now they're competitive with Kansas City, which
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Kansas City is 4 points ahead of the Wave at this point. They played each other in the 4th game of the season. They don't play again until the last game of the season,
Leave it to
which I feel like is quite a fun
it's a fun.
Well, we'll see where the
matchup.
standings end up.
Right, for sure. Like, again, we're a quarter of the way into the season, a third, no, a little over a third of the way into the season. But I do think that we're going to end up seeing Kansas City and Wave be the top 2 teams.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I would say that everyone coming into the season, because of the exodus of big names from San Diego,
Right.
we were like, what are we going to get?
Yeah. We
And-
talked about this last week.
Not
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And you're like, and honestly, I had the luxury of covering San Diego the first week of the NWSL. So I spoke to Giannis on a phone call, and he was very much like, we're in a massive rebuild. I am not the only missing puzzle piece from this team. There's a lot of missing puzzle pieces. And, you know, all due respect, he has done a phenomenal job. And I think where, you know, people questioned what San Diego would be able to do was not because they had, maybe they have inexperience, their players have inexperience in the NWSL, but they have international experience that has been able to translate.
Oh, for sure.
And like, Kenza Dolly is one of my favorite players in the league right now. Cascarino, incredible.
So fun to watch.
Like,
yeah.
so fun. So to see him be able to get the most out of this team and play like a brand of soccer that they clearly are bought into is really cool. But this is my last thing on them. I think you have all these big name players, but I think what has really been interesting is Savannah McCaskill's journey with this team.
Yeah, I would like to see her get called into the national team.
Yeah, I think
You had a dramatic pause.
You're like, I know. Well, everybody was like, see her on the street.
You had a dramatic pause. I would like to see her.
It's jet lag. Okay?
Yeah. I would like to see her do what? But I was like,
I would.
yeah, no, totally. And I think you see her, historically, she's played the 10. She's dropped down into the 6. She gets on the ball a lot more. She's always been technically like gifted in that way. What I think is shifted for her is that she has players around her that she trusts. So you don't see her on the ball as much or giving the ball away in these crucial areas. She's like bopping the ball. She's a field general out there and she puts in work on the defensive side.
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah, I think, she was called into camp, a while ago.
Right.
I think if she can consistently continue to put in performances as she has, she'd be a great 6.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Speaking of an NWSL team who was not in NWSL play this weekend, I'm going to kick it to Kelley for Support Your Team presented by Amazon Business.
Thank you, BJ. I
Yes.
appreciate that. And I'm going to support my Gotham FC girlies who won the first ever edition of the CONCACAF W Champions Cup this weekend, which qualified them for the Club World Cup in 2026 and 2028.
Wow.
I'm going to be...
That's huge.
Can I get a round of applause? All right?
Where's the champagne?
Listen, I'm
Yeah,
pumped
how
for
much
them.
are they getting paid for these?
Couldn't tell you. Not a lot, if anything.
I'm going to be honest, though. As
What?
a fan,
You weren't interested?
No.
Why not?
I just feel like we don't care.
But they needed a win. They were due for something like this. And
Right.
I feel like for them to celebrate and for them to have this moment, I think could only help them in the NWSL season.
I agree. No, I agree. It's always great to lift hardware, but I feel like the competition isn't as good. It's not as interesting. So I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, these games happen randomly in the middle of the season. Even last year, it's just like, oh, we're not playing this weekend because we're playing. Okay.
So this
Yeah,
is such
this
an
is-
American soccer fan thing
Yeah,
to
this
say.
is showing
You
that
guys
you're
are
not
cute. You guys are
indoctrinated
cute. You're cute.
And I'm
into
proud to be
soccer
an American.
You're like, what is this competition? Okay, this is why it's interesting because we as NWSL players never have had the opportunity of playing these outside competitions. We've always just had league play, and that's pretty much it. You can win the Shield, you can win the championship through playoffs. But now we're having these competitions come in. CONCACAF W Champions Cup is competition that took NWSL teams and then teams that are in the CONCACAF region, which is like our region of the world, and allowed us to play against these other teams. And then by doing so, if you were to win this, which they did, they now qualify for a Club World Cup, which will bring all the top teams that win whatever qualification they have to into a Club World Cup, which is really, really cool.
I
and
think
exciting.
I think that is going to be the thing that starts to ignite interest
from international
fans.
players.
Well,
Oh,
and
really?
international players. But I think to BJ's point, the comprehension of what
Right.
CONCACAF
I feel
is
like you
and
just
all of
marketed
these
it way
things.
better than I've seen.
Call me Gotham.
But I think-
NWSL or CONCACAF.
Yeah, everyone. But I
world.
think it's the point. There's not an education. No one's been
Right.
We are not correctly bringing along fans,
Right.
which is who we need to be interested in these things.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
need to be like, oh, this is
matters.
cool. This matters.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think when you start, T-Grace is hard because it's in a league that has been, I would say, underfunded.
Underfunded, but like there's good competition.
Yeah. But they're like
and
coming,
fan interest.
coming along. I'm saying
for
in
sure.
terms of fan interest, when you start to get in Club World Cup and you're like Arsenal's coming or
That's true.
Chelsea, when you start to be able to put European club teams against NWSL teams, I feel like that will be more of a click point for fans to be like, oh, what is this?
Right.
And I can make from the kind of data that I have that this should be interesting. I think CONCACAF, there needs to be a better bring along process from everyone involved.
And the NWSL too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That NWSL at all levels, you need to start educating your fans about why this matters.
100%. And I guarantee come 2026, as a Gotham fan, you'll be sitting there and being like, I'm glad they won that CONCACAF W Champions Cup.
As a fan, I'm saying it now.
I think there's also this you also have to start educating people on the the not instant gratification. Like
Right.
you are
That's-
then having to wait for this.
Exactly. That's what's interesting. So, for instance, Champions League just happened this past weekend. Arsenal won for this year,
Yeah.
and it's the first time that that Lyon and or Barcelona hasn't won in the last 9 times of Champions League.
Crazy.
But Arsenal winning this past weekend was due to them being placed a certain placement in their league from 2023 to 2024, and then qualify group play fall of 2024 into this spring of 2025. So it's like you said, I think that's a great point. Football, so many of the competitions are not instant gratification. Like there isn't, you see it's years of time that it takes to actually win whatever you're even qualifying for.
Yeah, because in the United States, what we know to be true is you have playoffs, you
Right.
have a semi,
You
you
have
have
your
a final,
league
and
and-
it's like
yeah.
right then. Sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
no, you had.
No, I just in American culture,
Right.
that is what we know to be the most important thing is like the championship game. Overseas, the most important thing is
Is
winning,
league play.
league
Yeah.
play. And so creating this narrative of trying to just educate the individual and still maintaining the importance of what winning a championship means in the
Right.
NWSL, because it's very cool. It should be respected, but you have to start bringing people along to be like, this also matters, and it will only make the like world ecosystem of club sports more proficient in terms of like the main, like it will start to create something where you're like, oh, the competition, and you're starting to see crossover. That only is better for the women's game.
For sure. Yeah. I think this is huge.
And you mentioned how this kind of started in 2023, at least
Right.
for Gotham. So you were a part of that.
Yeah.
So do you feel any kind of way like you should get a little something
basically,
from
where's
it?
my medal, guys?
Yeah, I do,
Wait for it in the mail. You have
Right.
my address. I should go to the facility. Yeah. So basically, we were able to play in this final, win this cup, because we won the championship in 2023. That qualified us. It was us in Portland. I think were there any other teams? I think it was just
No, it
us
was
in
just
Portland.
you and
No, it was
Yeah,
just you and
because
Portland.
Portland was, I think, Shield winner.
Yep.
And so the 2 teams were then put into this competition. We had to play all last fall group games, and then we qualified based on that group play into the semifinal and final for this spring. So that's what's so interesting about football. It's just like there are competitions like that like this that take
Years.
time to see them come to champagne popping.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm pumped.
We
Everyone
got a
else should be
bottle for you
excited.
right there.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Pop it up.
Yeah. Speaking of world competitions,
Yep.
I was at World
Welcome
Sevens.
back.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Buongiorno.
What'd you say?
Buongiorno.
Bon dia.
Bon dia.
But it's like this NWSL finally having the opportunity to play in competitions like this, CONCACAF providing this platform, and also a Club World Cup being put together is a way that the global game will grow and also become more integrated, and fans and players will have a deeper connection across the globe, which is half the reason why we built World Sevens.
Yeah. How did it go?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was seriously the most fun 3 days of football I've experienced in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You crowned your first championship.
We crowned our first World Sevens football champion. Bayern Munich won.
Wow.
And yeah, from the jump, it was they were clearly the team having the most fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So
what was defining that for you?
So their first game, they had their first goal that they scored. The girl celebrated by taking off her jersey and
Incredible.
did that celebration,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She gets yellow carded because that's what happens in football if you take off your jersey.
you gotta get rid of that rule.
So being World Sevens football, and we're like, we can do whatever we want here.
Right.
We celebrate joy. We celebrate fun. We had a moment at the end of the evening session of the first day, and she got to give the yellow card back to the ref. And we were like, no. Like, if you celebrate, that's what we want. And so that was like a moment of us kind of showing this is what World Sevens is about.
Yeah. Which it needs to have something.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. It
Oh
needs
my
to
God.
Be,
It was-
that needs to be the platform of it's going to be a good time. There's
Right.
going to be excellent soccer that's
Right.
played, but we're going to have fun with it.
For sure.
Build
Yeah.
moments. And there was a moment that stuck out to me, which was, I think you posted it. It was intros and the team was doing cartwheels.
Yes. Yeah.
That was so much
It was so
fun.
good. Like, and genuine, like I walked into the third day, the finals day, and I was like, I'm so proud to be a part of the team that brought this to life and built this. One, because it's like really fun to be part of a team again and to do something that's never been done before. But then also, as a player advisor, our whole focus was like, we want to make sure the player experience is top notch. And these players like love playing in it, because for it to be successful, the players need to enjoy it, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And we saw that. Like the overwhelming response was that players like, this is the most fun I've had playing football in a really long time.
That's incredible.
And so I was like so joyful.
Yeah.
Like the whole time, because you could tell.
It feels similar to the message we've heard around Unrivaled.
Right. Yeah.
Of that players got brought in, they felt seen and celebrated,
For sure.
and were able to love it, go against great competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you get to the level of professional sport, it is fun. It's also not fun.
Right.
In the very same breath. Like you are having a good time and also miserable. Both things can be true at the same time. And it sounds like this event, and that's also how something spreads and becomes.
Exactly.
You know, people are bought in and they're like, oh, I actually am upset that we weren't a part of that. When players themselves are then sending the message to their own peers of being like, I had a great time.
For sure.
It was so much fun. It was worth it. It was in cool country.
Yeah.
We were very much supported, and we got to play great soccer.
Yeah.
And it's small sided, which is the best. I will say this 1,000 times on the show. It's the best form of
100%.
soccer you could ever do.
100%. And the response online was insane. Like people were obsessed with the play on the field. Like it was so fun. It was joyful. Players were enjoying themselves. They weren't taking themselves too seriously. But as soon as that whistle blew, like it was excellent, electric football. Like some of these goals and some of the play, and it was just free. Like that's what you want to see. Cameron was there for the last 2 days, and she looked at me at one point. She was like, well, if this is what football always was, like, I'd actually want to watch it. She's like, you can give that piece of feedback.
I know. Well, you've condensed this space into
and the time, it's 15 minutes. You don't want to miss it. Like, I'll go to a football game and I might pick up my phone a couple times, whatever. And here I was like, phone down, 15 minutes, only look at halftime, next half. Like, there was no you couldn't miss the action. Like, it wasn't possible. You would miss something.
Well, what was your biggest takeaway? And is there anything that you want to add or maybe just build on for the future of it?
I mean, one, there wasn't enough, like, we announced this, I think, April, and it happened a month later, if that. So now that we've done it and people have seen it, I think that like the next time we do it, it's going to be a packed house. By the third day, it was like there was a ton of people there. So I think that'll be the biggest. Honestly, the biggest thing is like, well, it sounds like all the clubs want to come now. So it's like, how do we choose who we bring, that sort of thing? Where do we do it?
Would you do it in Portugal again?
No, we want to do it probably in the States in the fall somewhere. Yeah, which would be
in the fall.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to a warm city.
Yeah.
Maybe New York.
Giving Miami.
Maybe. No, but it was incredible. I like again exceeded all my expectations, and I was part of like creating it. So was
it nerve-wracking? I feel like when you put so much into it and you've like built something, and it's almost you have that moment of like, is anyone going to show up?
It was like different type of game day jitters.
Say that again?
Different type of game day
truly
jitters.
like the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, we were celebrating like we had won something, you know, because I truly feel like we did something that no one's done before. And like you said, it is quite anxiety inducing to be like, I'm going to put my name on this. Like, I'm going to connect myself to this. And then it has to deliver. And when it does, like, you get that gratification, but then you're like, okay, let's go do it again. All right. Well, going from one championship to another, PWHL crowned their champion. Listen, electric playoffs and then finals. Every game in this final series went to overtime. Crazy.
Epic.
Yes.
Epic.
And there was almost a little fight yesterday, a little melee happening. I was like,
oh,
it's the finals.
I love
think
it.
everything's on the
Allowed?
line.
Is it
Yeah.
allowed?
Oh, yeah, there's some fighting.
Yo,
Yeah.
We've seen
When
some.
I went to the Sirens game, there was a fight.
Yo, if Kayla Fisher gets kicked out of the NWSL, she should go to the PNW.
Put her But
She
there's
skates.
some skates. Lace it up. Lace those skates up, baby.
Lace them skates
Oh
up.
my god.
But the game was won by Liz Sheppers, who had an incredible goal
in overtime.
You know, in overtime, and it was like off of 2 whacks. But no, it was. Even the broadcaster.
Is
said
that
it-
what they're called?
Yeah, she said it was 2 whacks.
Little
And it
whack.
was two
Wackadoodle.
whacks. But it was,
Love it.
I mean, and they did it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So to win at home is super
packed,
special in front of
too.
your own fans.
Yeah,
It was
it's so cool.
packed.
Yeah.
You know, it's just to have that trophy ceremony there. Billie Jean King was there.
Yeah.
Like it was such a moment for women's sports.
No,
And
it's
even
huge.
the commissioner said like, you're still watching. You
Yeah.
know, which I thought was really powerful.
No, and PWHL I feel like is doing it right. It is growing intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
and this championship series to me showed like the excitement there. And
Yeah.
I'm like, can this next season start already? How long do you guys need for off season?
Can they send us a jersey?
Yeah, no, seriously. I'm like, I am a Sirens fan because I am New York, but I do love the Frost
It's
jersey.
very pretty.
It's also a great
You need a
name.
backup team.
Oh yeah,
True.
My name's
Okay.
cool.
They are
I
my
love
backup
it.
team. They are my backup team. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
When one championship ends, another one starts.
there you go.
Oh. Good job. Is that the life motto?
The World Women's College. I was too proud of myself
No,
there.
you
The
got it,
Women's College Series begins on Thursday with Oklahoma eyeing their 5th straight title. We talked about them earlier, a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
about them going for their 5th straight. Do
Crazy.
we think they're going to do it?
Oklahoma, I think that they can go 5th, and that's, I mean, part of me thinks,
But they're playing Tennessee, right?
yeah, which has an incredible pitcher
Yeah.
and who just broke somebody's bat recently.
And it like
is
broke
crazy.
the record for fastest pitch.
I think her own record.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
79.4 miles per hour.
Yeah, I don't wanna
Can you
be-
imagine?
Yo, that's
Yeah.
coming so fast, and it's from a shorter distance than a base. I'm like,
Yeah, I'll
yo,
stay in the
thanks.
dugout. I'll stay in the dugout.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm like, absolutely. I have no interest. I have no interest whatsoever.
Literally zero.
You know what'd be hard? One, trying to hit that pitch. Also, keeping up with the cheers when you're in the dugout. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what is? Is there like a cheat sheet? Is
Surely.
this memorized? When is this practice? I have so many questions about what goes on in the dugout.
Do you think we should bring it to soccer?
No.
I
Really?
need a couple cheers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we could maybe take something
I
from
hate.
some-
I hate it. It's
kinda
like
quiet.
the equivalent of like volleyball always having to go into a huddle after a point. I'm like, do we need to go every
Yo,
time?
I feel like you could have been a
I hate it
cheerleader.
too.
I
I'm
feel
like,
like you could have been a cheerleader in another life.
Huh?
You're giving cheerleader.
Hey, what's the one that's like? Oh, I know a basketball cheer, but I don't know softball.
oh, I don't know.
I feel
You
like
walk. You walk. You travel and got caught.
Oh, you're dialed in.
says she doesn't want to bring him
right.
to soccer.
Hold on.
Whoa. No stretching.
It's the hot
before that?
yoga. It's the hot yoga.
Look at you. She's flexible.
I
my
almost did it.
gosh.
I almost wiped both feet, but I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself. Not in the boots. Yo,
No,
the
definitely not in the
cowboy
boots.
No.
Oh my god.
Not in the
Oh my
cowboy.
God.
But like, honestly, imagine having to keep up with the cheer and then having to go.
It's a lot
hit
of work.
A fucking 79.
But women are incredible. Women can multitask. Women are super.
Yeah, we can do it
know,
all.
and
We can
everything's
hit, we can
hard.
throw, we can cheer,
You can catch.
we can catch,
You can run.
we can
Do
run,
it
we can
all.
You
slide.
can go for a 5th consecutive championship.
There you go.
There it is.
All right, let's get into group chat.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
BJ,
starting
you
off
we
with
got
group
BJ.
You had some stuff on group chat
I
this
did.
week. What'd you hit
okay,
us
I'm
with?
gonna start off with the Shade Room post. We had Trinity Rodman posting that she's still grinding with a little compilation of her in the gym and in PT, it looked like, doing back training and different things to help her. And she commented something very shady. She said, "No, I am not just a wag. I'm working very hard on and off the pitch to get back to the field." Which, before we dive into it, I didn't see a single negative comment about her on social media. So I was like, who are you clapping back to?
I think people might have been thinking things, but not really saying it.
But yeah, like,
But I
who are
think
you
that's where
clapping
she's
back
coming
what
from.
they were
I think
thinking?
that's where she was coming from.
Yeah.
True, but I mean, like, I don't think it was like the general consensus that we were like, oh, she's just on vacation. Like, I don't think
Maybe
so.
she felt guilty too.
True.
You know, I think sometimes we put this odd pressure on us that we have to be one thing, and it's like, no, you could be many things.
Right,
You
yeah.
can be a great girlfriend. You can be a professional. You can be a mom. You can be whatever you want to be.
Also, the video that she put up of the rehab she has to do looks like my worst nightmare.
looks
And people
rough.
are probably like, doesn't look. I'm like, that looks terrible. I'm like, the slow moving.
Yeah.
The rehab process in and of itself is hard. you should always surround yourself with the people that are going to support you through that, whatever that looks like, because it is isolating, it's demanding. To me, it looks like she's having to go back to square one to strengthen up her back to be able to take on the loading that is expected of her, both club and for her country. So yeah, I think, whether there's comments being made out there, I would imagine the assumption with Trinity and the scrutiny that she just gets at baseline. And if she does anything that's out of the realm of you're not playing, you're in rehab, you're not able to get called in, yet you're able to go watch a tennis match of your boyfriend, like that, of course, is going to come with some form of conversation around it. Yeah, so I think for her to just be like, yeah, before you get too far into this conversation, here's what I am doing. It is brutal. It's like doesn't look like fun at all.
That's true.
But I think their relationship is so cute.
I'm obsessed with them.
I think they're so cute.
Yeah, they're adorable.
Speaking of another adorable moment, Diana Taurasi talked about how she is coaching her son on his first grade team alongside her wife, who's also a 3-time WNBA champion, Penny. Yeah. And can you imagine going up against 2 legends?
Well, I mean, when you're 6,
coaching?
No.
Well, I feel like the kids are like, don't give a flying. They're like, who are you talking about? The parents, on the other hand, are like on.
Yeah, I
edge.
wouldn't. It's not the like being a kid. It would be the coach of the other team. I would just sit there and be like, no point in giving any instruction today.
Yeah.
You know. All right. Well, that's a wrap.
Let's go
on another episode of Sports Are Fun. We got a great week of sports ahead of us. When do we not? WNBA keeps on rolling with some key games. We got the Fever playing their first game without Clark. That'll be interesting. Against the Mystics. We'll find some things out that night. That's on Wednesday. Kelsey Plum playing her former team, the Aces, on Friday.
Ooh.
NWSL is off this weekend, but that means we get to see the U.S. Women's National Team in action against China on Saturday. And finally, the Women's College World Series kicks off on Thursday.
Do we think that Kelsey Plum's getting that win over the Aces?
Not if Rakia, Cameron Brink, and all those injuries are still lingering.
All right, well, we'll find out soon.
We'll see. We will.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.